Good evening. This is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. I'm Pio Ontiveros. Tonight, News.PH returns to the senatorial campaign trail. We have two candidates with us, TingTing Cojuanco of the United Nationalist Alliance and attorney Marwil Llasos of the Ang Kapatiran Party. Good evening, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for being here, ma'am. And attorney Llasos, good evening.
Good evening.
Ma'am, let's start with you. How exasperating can it be to always be asked the questions about what does it mean to be a pretty face?
Yeah, I've been asked that many times, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, perhaps that's really, in a way, why I decided to go to school and have 2 master's degrees.
Just 2, not 3, no?
2.
2 masterals.
Yes.
Okay.
And
2 doctorates.
Yes, but a minor in theology, major in Philippine history, and the other one is the National Defense College of the Philippines, right? And then, since I took 8 years of public safety, it could lead me to a master's degree, but it has not yet led me there because I think I should spend another a few months, no? And then I have a doctorate degree in Philippine history and criminology. So I thought that, well, you know, like, some are just pretty, but you wonder what's really in their brains, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so
but
I've
of course,
been
it doesn't mean just because you're pretty, then
yeah, it means
you're
maybe
dumb
that
or
you're not.
something,
Yeah, you're not smart. Yeah, and so I thought this is going to help. Aside from like, if anything happens to the family, at least I can be a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you said to go to school. You decided to go to school, but you married at the age of 18. You had not yet been to college.
No, just
1
year college.
A 1 year college.
Yes.
Okay.
So I finished my college degree and I majored in Oriental history.
How many years after getting married?
Actually, my daughter was already going to college, and my classmates were her classmates.
Okay.
So
All right.
pretty long.
Okay.
Maybe 15. Yeah.
15 years. But at least you finished.
Yes, yes.
Attorney Llasos, you are a consecrated secular Dominican.
Yes.
Can you explain that to us? That's why you have an OP.
Yes, that's right.
OP meaning?
Order of Preachers.
Okay.
Some would say out of place.
Yeah, okay. But secular Dominican, so you're not a priest, but you're a lay minister, so you can give communion?
Actually, when you say consecrated person, you have vows of chastity, poverty, and obedience. It's just
Same
that.
vows as the priest,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but we are not ordained. No, we are lay persons, so we live out our vows outside in our secular world, not inside our convents.
Okay, so this is like one step beyond being a lay minister, as I had mentioned. This is not just giving communion.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, it's more on giving witness to the values of the gospel in the secular society. It's not the type of a service like the lay ministers do. It's more on doing apostolate.
Okay. And
UST.
Dominican.
We're both from UST, both of us.
And you'll have more in common. You'll discover.
Yes, yeah.
But UST, because that's where is that where you took law?
I studied from UP, but the University of Santo Tomas is owned by the Order of Preachers. So I get to visit it often.
Okay, and this is what I meant, ma'am. You'll discover what you have in common. Your father, Attorney Llasos, Wilson, had testified during the Agrava fact-finding board.
Yes.
And well, for a generation of viewers who are not familiar with this, of course, that board was headed by Justice Corazon Agrava. They investigated the Aquino Galman double murder case. What did your father testify about?
Actually, I have a very hazy knowledge about what he testified about because I didn't grow with my father.
Yes.
But,
and you were just, what, 8 years old?
8 years old at the
time,
yes. And I was trying to pore over the records, you know, but I found out that he was able to testify that Galman was not the...
Yeah, wait. He was a security guard of China Airlines.
Yes,
on
that's
the
right.
tarmac.
On the tarmac.
Stationed on the tarmac. Okay.
Actually, he was just transferred to that shift on that particular day. It was not his normal shift, so that was something that was really unusual.
Yes, okay. And he testified to what?
He testified that Galman's body was thrown, I think, somewhere from the van, and then he was riddled with firearms.
Already dead.
Already dead.
Okay.
So it was not true as the conspiracy theory was saying that it was Galman who killed Ninoy.
And it wasn't even true that Galman shot Ninoy first, and then the soldier shot him.
That's
They
what
had
the
killed him
conspirators would
already.
like to say. They had already killed him already.
Okay, and he also saw, but he did not see the shooting of Senator Aquino on the steps of the plane.
He was not in that position to see, because I think the angle was impossible for him to see. But at least he was able to shatter the theory of the dictatorship that it was Galman who shot Ninoy.
Okay, and of course that resulted in
that resulted in his incarceration for 6 months. There was a time when I was young that I couldn't see my father. We were frantic looking for him, and until such time that we approached a relative who happened to be in the military, who helped us locate my father.
Where did you find him?
He was in Camp Crame at that time, ostensibly for safekeeping.
Ah,
That's what the term
safekeeping.
the dictatorship used.
Okay, and the probe itself resulted in several indictments.
Yes, yes, and eventually the conviction of those who are implicated, but not the mastermind.
Did your father ever speak to you about it when you were much older?
Actually, I never had the chance to extensively discuss this. In fact,
Died early.
yeah, he died early.
When was that? What year?
In 1992, and as I said, I didn't grow up with my father. He had his other family.
I see. Okay, Governor Cojuanco, I should call you Governor
Because
that's your last 92 to 98, right?
Yes,
Interlock.
yeah.
Let's talk about Saba. Do you think it was as simple as people were just putting two and two together? No, when Boy Saicon, who you are associated with because you were both in the Council of Philippine Affairs or COPA, another thing that maybe this generation is not familiar with, no? When Boy Saicon shows up at the Kiram residence,
Yes.
and then people think, oh, it's got Peping Cojuanco's fingerprints all over it. No? Is that how you were accused of conspiracy by this
Maybe,
association?
but we really don't know how it happened. But I was never a member of COPA because I was
Your
working for the
husband.
government. Yeah, I was working for President Gloria.
Yes.
But Peping was part of COPA, and I really don't know how it happened. But Peping texted Noy Noy and said, "We don't understand what's happening." And Noy Noy answered that never was there any report that him nor me were included as conspirators. Yeah.
Okay. So it must have been exasperating again, if I have to use the word, to be told na, ma'am, sabi ka, nagbigay pa yun ng vote." Ayan na naman. But many agree that this should have been this should all have been handled better. But what I'd like to ask you is, were the Kirams correct in sending their so-called royal army to Sabah to claim it?
The Kirams had said to me, it was the Sultan that said, that his brother had gone there in his desire to live in Sabah because they consider it theirs. He only had 27 high-powered
Firearms.
weapons, yes, and 22 sidearms. So that's very little for somebody who wants to invade the country. So the Muslims are considered like to always carry their guns for protection, especially when you go in the high seas. You need the protection for any piracy that might occur. So to carry very little firearms actually is normal. Actually, it's even more ordinary when they carry more sophisticated firearms. So he said, that's it. He just did it because his brother wanted to go there.
But would you have advised them, if you had had the chance, no, to withdraw or to leave Sabah?
Oh, his brother?
Yes.
To withdraw or to leave Sabah?
Yes. Would you have advised them to do that?
No.
No. You would have
No.
advised them to stay put?
Yes.
Really? Because?
I'm a bit of a revolutionary. Yeah. My grandparents were like that. My two grandfathers were, one was a general, one financed the Cavite Mutiny. I would have made him stay, given the chance. Because it's considered theirs.
Okay.
Yeah. And so if you were there really to fight and not to want to live permanently, then by all means, knowing the Tao Sogs, they will never surrender. It is their culture to continue fighting to the death.
Okay. It must have been painful for you to hear the ARMM described as and we're going back a few months before this, no? Described as a failed experiment. But at the same time, it must have been good for you to hear also when the Bangsamoro draft agreement was signed, right?
Yeah, yes. It was never a failed experiment, and it was actually conceived during Cory's time, and it took the delegates a very long time to decide on the Organic Act. It's very well written because I translated it in easier to understand language with Judge Kadir Indar. It was published by Dato Pax Mangundadato. So it hasn't even been implemented, and already it's going to be changed. So it's wonderful that there's this Bangsamoro MILF agreement, because in 1987, I was the first one who suggested such an agreement, and we met in Maguindanao, Simway Crossing, my husband, Secretary Pimentel, and
Pimentel,
yes, yeah, he signed it together with Abul Haliliaya and Muhammad Pasigan, who were actually the advisors of Kagi Murad and Salamat. And we met and they signed that peace agreement. And during Cory's time, there was relatively peace between the MI, so that if they needed anything, it was I that was used as an intermediary.
Okay, but you're saying that the Organic Act was not fully implemented.
Yeah.
Whose fault was that?
Well, it could be that they needed the guidance, because it's always been customary that whomever the president wants to put there is the one who is elected. And so even till today, I was hoping that the Muslims would be given a chance to choose their own leader, and not because the president says, I want this man to be the head of the autonomous region, no? That he will be elected to that position.
Attorney Marvel Llasos, one of your advocacies is to strengthen state universities and colleges, and you say you want fiscal autonomy for them. What does that mean in light of what had just happened in UP Manila?
Yeah, actually, there are only two universities, state universities, that have fiscal autonomy, the Mindanao State University and the University of the Philippines. I want the other state universities and colleges to have the same privilege, so that they will have to determine how to use their money with least interference or no interference at all from the national government. And the funds that they have at the end of the fiscal year would not have to revert to the national coffers. So that's what I have in mind.
Yeah, but what does that mean when we talk about socialized tuition? Because that's what UP has now. Are you saying that let's have socialized tuition for all the SUCs?
I'm not saying that.
No, you're talking about...
I'm talking about giving the state universities the free hand on how to allot their resources based on the budget. For me, the socialized tuition scheme is a failure, and in fact, that's what drove Cristel Tejada to her suicide. And this started at the time of UP President Angara. He was the one who introduced it. And a lot of concerns have been raised against the STFAP already.
Yeah, well, the SUC's budget had been increased considerably in the last year, and yet we have a situation like this where UP has itong STFAP, no? What do we do? Should we be aligning the budget for the SUCs to specific concerns like student tuition, for example?
I think there should be that earmarking to specific concerns, so that this will not be transferred, no, to other areas of the needs of the university, so that it will be used on a focused basis. So that will deter juggling of funds from one project to the next.
Okay, we'll have to take a short break. News.PH will be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News.PH on the Solar News channel. I'm Pia Ontiveros. This is Miting De Avance, a News.PH candidate series. We have TingTing Cojuanco of the UNA and Attorney Marbil Llasos of Ang Kapatiran. Attorney Llasos, you were also you were executive assistant and legal consultant at the Department of Agrarian Reform. To who? Who was the secretary at the time?
At the time, it was Horacio Boy Morales,
Boy
under
Morales.
ERAP. It was very funny because I joined the EDSA DOS rally. After ERAP was booted out of office, I turned out that I was booted out of office as well.
Okay, and that was a surprise.
And that was a surprise.
Wait, how long were you at DAR?
I think I was there for around 2 or 3 years.
Okay, it was Boy Morales himself who brought you in?
Actually, no, but someone close to him. I was assigned to the DARAB, the Adjudication Board.
Yes. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Tapos ito, may hacienda Lucy. But anyway, in a while. But, okay, but you are for an extension of Carper.
Because I think there's still 1 million lands that have yet to be acquired. 1 million hectares of land that have yet to be acquired and distributed to the farmers. And I think that one last extension for CARP is a must.
Because it's supposed to end itong
2014.
So
next year.
You are aiming for what?
For at least another 5-year extension.
Okay, even if Hilda Los Reyes says that even if it ends in 2014, as long as we've sent out notices of coverages to the landowner, notices of coverage, sorry, to the landowners, it doesn't matter. It will still go on.
Actually, what will not go on is the land acquisition and distribution, but
naghahabol naman sila ngayon eh.
Yeah, yun na nga po. But how effective will the DAR be if the program has already been terminated by 2014? You know, there's already demoralization in the Department of Agrarian Reform because, you know, if you're an employee, you are thinking of where you go to work afterwards, because there will be streamlining and downsizing of the bureaucracy.
Okay. So, but your concern is not just about what happens to the employees, no, but about what is it about the program that you think needs that extension time of 5 years?
I think land acquisition and distribution. And although even if the CARPER will not be extended, I think the DAR will have to continue to function because there are still cases that need to be resolved, no? So the DARAB will still be there. And of course, the giving of support services to the beneficiaries and the farmers will have to continue.
You know, I think it's not a matter of just this land distribution, because many officers believe that if you give the land, then the farmers will be all right. It's wrong. It should be a comprehensive agrarian reform, you know, where you really have to help the farmers, you know, with their fertilizer, water, you know, the irrigation. It's not, you know, seedlings. You just don't leave them alone. But the trouble here in the Philippines is that they're left alone.
That's why there's a need to really implement and reinforce what we call as the support services.
Right.
That's what Governor Cojuanco is talking about.
Right. Para hindi basta mabalik sa landowner or napupunta sa ibang
or ibebenta nila sa landowner.
Did you study that, Attorney Llasos?
Actually,
how much of the land that had been given out had been sold to other people?
Actually,
in other words, I asked that because, you know, there is that thinking that not all the farmers who till the land and who receive it, no, as beneficiaries really till the land afterwards. They turn right around and sell.
Actually, there's a provision in the law that you cannot sell, you cannot alienate the land if you are a beneficiary. But they do that indirectly. Sometimes, you know, they do not pay the amortization in the land bank, so that gets foreclosed, or sometimes they alienate it informally, you know, without the proper documentation. So it's very hard to monitor the statistics, really.
Actually,
but that's a concern.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, ma'am.
Actually, they can be made into agrarian reform villages. Yes.
Or say like co-ops,
say
no?
like
Co-ops.
Yes, and say like if Luisita were divided, because you have 10,000 recipients, but only 6 are registered in the DAR actually, because the rest are shareholders. Then how do you give them 4,000 hectares? They're not even going to get 1 hectare. But if you form them into agrarian reform villages, like they do in Israel, in the kibbutz, where they got the cows, they have the processing for the cheese, and the villagers really work there themselves. Like milking the cow and then making the cheese, you know, after the processing, and then they sell them.
Okay, this is what you mean by support services. But in the Philippine scenario, Of course, that's not what happens. Ma'am, about Hacienda Lucita, which was is
Yeah, was
slash is
Yes,
owned by your
yes.
husband's family.
Yes.
So you've said that they stopped planting in 2004.
Yes, yes.
And that since then, 6,000 farmers and their families have had nothing. No? But,
Yes, nothing.
how best do you think can we resolve this? The DAR is right now in the process of distributing or about to distribute. How do you see this ending in a win-win situation for
actually,
everyone?
we're just watching because since it's already in the hands of the court. But if we were to be like part of it, maybe we would form them into agrarian reform villages because when you get less than 1 hectare, I mean, what can you
What is
plant?
that? There goes your food production.
It's like the problem is that they might plant kabote, sayote, and then the next one will plant watermelon and peanuts, and they're really going to be on their own. And then they're going to have sari-sari stores along the way, and it's not going to be an orchestrated production of what the family really needs.
Is that a cause for concern also in agrarian reform? Kung ano-anong
Actually,
naitatanim na
sometimes it results to fragmentation of land holdings that are even less economical. But I think what is important here is that we respect the autonomy of the farmers if they are already the beneficiaries. But still, that concern can be addressed by the Department of Agrarian Reform, providing them the proper advice, the proper resources in order for them to really transform their land holdings into economically viable ones.
But they should have the money for it. Somebody's got to help them.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, speaking of money, how much does the Cojuanco family?
Well, I set a ceiling for my expenses in the campaign, so over that, I don't know how I'd get it back. So we're not spending.
Okay. Attorney Llasos, on same-sex marriage, it's interesting how you put things. No? And please correct me if I'm wrong. You've said that things can be as simple as, and then I paraphrase, one partner executing a will or last will or testament so that the other partner becomes an heir, the heir?
Actually, I mentioned that in the light of there are certain groups in the LGBT community who are advocating for same-sex marriage so that they can protect the proprietary relations of the partners. My view is that you don't even have to go into enactment of a law to provide that. Under existing laws, you can already protect the proprietary relations. For example, you can enter into partnerships. Okay, so you are partners in a business. So normally, you have the sharing component there.
But it's just pretense,
Or,
but you actually live together, right?
If you want to bequeath, then you can put it in your last will and testament.
Okay, so business partnership or making the other partner the heir.
The heir.
And therefore, you don't need marriage.
Yes, if that is the only concern.
Yeah. Governor Cojuanco.
No, you don't need marriage because marriage is for procreation, but anybody can inherit whatever you want to leave behind, no? Yeah, but whether you live together, same sex or not. So I don't see any reason on why there should be marriages that don't result in what God wants, which is procreation.
Actually, I share the same view of Governor Cojuanco in that regard.
Okay. On the RH law, as a member of Ang Kapatiran, Attorney Llasos, and if elected, you've said you will work for the repeal of the law at most or at best perform oversight functions on its budget.
Yes,
right?
actually that's the law already and it's a party stand that we are against it. So of course it's expected of us normally to file a bill for the repeal, but I'm more concerned with the implementation of the law as it is now, and I will use my oversight function so that no funds will be wasted along the way. So I think that will be my paramount concern in that respect.
No funds will be wasted, meaning if the funds are meant to procure certain contraceptive okay lang sa'yo. It's
because it's in the law already. What I'm trying to say is, if they are saying that there must be, fair treatment of natural family planning and and artificial means, then at least we will see to it that it is implemented the way it is intended by the law. Second, there's a very big funding component. I don't want the funds, the gargantuan amount, to be wasted. That that might be pocketed by DOH officials in the procurement of contraceptives abroad.
Okay, how would you read the Supreme Court status quo ante order on the implementation of the law?
I am delighted that the Supreme Court has voted first to issue a status quo ante order with a 10-5 vote, and it also denied the motion for reconsideration of your sister, Risa.
My older sister.
Your older sister, Risa, recently by a vote of, I think, 10-1. So we are hopeful that in the final analysis, the voting will be as the stand.
You think the voting will reflect that in the end?
I am confident, because it's very hard to convince the judges to look the other way, and the voting as it is now is really very lopsided, 10-4 in favor of the petition.
Yeah. Governor Cojuanco, very briefly, if elected, what would you do about the RH law?
I'm really for the Magna Carta of women. I think the two should be harmonized, or maybe one shouldn't have been there than the other.
Okay.
But the Magna Carta already protects the women's health, and it says also in Section 17, according to religious convictions, and that the couple can decide,
Yeah. Okay.
So I didn't see the need for the RH bill.
Oh, but it's there. Well, at least.
Yes, it's there. It's too late to harmonize them too, but maybe not too late, and maybe it can be done.
Okay.
Yeah,
harmonize meaning repeal
the
the RH law.
Put them together, because sometimes there are laws that are just the same, but not implemented.
Actually, 80% of the reproductive health law is lifted from the Magna Carta of
Yeah,
women.
that's right.
Okay. Ma'am, we'll end with this. Tell us the story of how you and Piping ended up on the other side with Una and not with your nephew-in-law, no? It all started with Ninoy needing a party to run for in 1978.
That's right. Oh, you did your research well, huh? This was in 1978 when Ninoy didn't have a party, and the Liberal Party boycotted the elections of that 78 assemblyman position in Manila. So the 18 candidates of Ninoy lost, and Piping had formed a party called Laban with Jojo Binay, who was the lawyer of Cory and Ninoy that election. And of course, it had Rene Sagisag and Manching Mitra, Anding Roses, the stalwarts then for democracy. So we never changed party at all. And because we're not really opposition in that sense, but we were thinking that if there was another Cojuanco who's running with Jojo Binay, they need to show the people that we're still for Ninoy. Noy.
Okay. Final words, you have 10 seconds each. Let's start with Attorney Llasos.
I want to use this opportunity to remind the Filipino public that we do have a choice in the forthcoming May 13, 2013 election. If you are not satisfied with the people in Una or in Liberal Party, you can at least try to look at Kapatiran. And one of the candidates is Attorney Marvil Llasos, number 20 on your ballot.
Thank you, Attorney Llasos. Governor Cojuanco?
Yeah, well, peace and safety is what I can really give to the country, having national security and public safety studies. And I think that it all begins with the mother. It's how the mother takes care of her children, to make them respectful and good citizens. And if they need jobs, and education, then TingTing Cojuanco is there to help them. Sapagkat ako pa isang walis lang, isang TingTing, ngunit kung sama-sama kami mga ina, pwede tayo magtrabaho, magkakasama para sa edukasyon ng inyong mga anak. At we have a big fat kiss na walis TingTing to clean, whatever's necessary. I think the slogan of Noy Noy about matuwid, I would like to add, malinis and tahimik. Yeah.
Okay. Maraming salamat. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Attorney Marvil Llasos, thank you. And
It's
Governor
our pleasure.
TingTing Cojuanco.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much
Yes,
for being here, ma'am. And thank you for being with us. I'm Pia Ontiveros. This is News.PH. See you again next Wednesday. Good night.
chastity, poverty, and obedience. It's just
Same
that.
vows as the priest,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but we are not ordained. No, we are lay persons, so we live out our vows outside in our secular world,
Yes.
not inside our
Okay,
convents.
so this is like one step beyond being a lay minister, as I had mentioned. This is not just giving communion.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, it's more on giving witness to the values of the gospel in the secular society. It's not the type of a service like the lay ministers do. It's more on doing apostolate.
Okay. And
UST.
Dominican.
We're both from UST, both of us.
And you'll have
Yes.
more in common. You'll discover. You know what?
Yes, yeah.
But UST, because that's where is that where you took law?
I studied from UP, but the University of Santo Tomas is owned by the Order of Preachers. So I get to visit it often.
Okay, and this is what I meant, ma'am. You'll discover what you have in common. Your father, Attorney Llasos, Wilson, had testified during the Agrava fact-finding board.
Yes.
No? And well,
Very much for
thank you for
having
being
us.
here, ma'am. And Attorney Llasos, good evening.
Good evening.
Ma'am, let's start with you. How exasperating can it be to always be asked the questions about what does it mean to be a pretty face?
Yeah, I've been asked that many times, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, perhaps that's really, in a way, why I decided to go to school and have 2 masteral degrees.
Just
One-
2, not 3, no?
2.
2 masterals.
Yes.
Okay.
And
2 doctorates.
Yes, but a minor in theology, major in Philippine history, and the other one is the National Defense College of the Philippines, right? And then, since I took 8 years of public safety, it could lead me to a master's degree, but it has not yet led me there because I think I should spend another a few months, no? And then I have a doctorate degree in Philippine history and criminology. So I thought that, well, you know, like some are just pretty, but you wonder what's really in their brains, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I've
but of
been
course, it
asked
doesn't mean
that-
just because you're pretty, then.
Yeah, it means.
Good evening. This is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. I'm Pio Ontiveros. Tonight, News.PH returns to the senatorial campaign trail. We have 2 candidates with us, TingTing Cojuanco of the United Nationalist Alliance and Attorney Marwil Llasos of the Ang Kapatiran Party. Good evening, ma'am. And
Hi, good evening. Thank you. It's
You're
maybe
dumb
that
or
you're not,
something,
yeah,
no?
you're not smart. Yeah. And so I thought this is going to help aside from like, if anything happens to the family, at least I can be a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you said to go to school, you decided to go to school. But you married
Yes.
at the age of 18. You had not
Yes.
yet been to college. yet.
No, just
But you finished
1
high
year
school.
college.
A 1 year college?
Yes.
Okay.
So I finished my college degree and I majored in Oriental history.
How many years after getting married?
Actually, my daughter
college
was
degree.
already going to college and my classmates were her classmates.
Okay.
So
All right.
pretty long.
Okay.
Maybe 15. Yeah.
15 years. But at least you finished.
Yes, yes. yeah.
Attorney Llasos, you are a consecrated secular Dominican.
Yes,
Can you explain
yes.
that to us? That's why you have an OP.
Yes,
After
that's
you.
right.
OP meaning?
Order of Preachers. Some would say out of place.
Yeah. Okay. But secular Dominican, so you're not a priest, but
I'm
you're
not
a
a
lay
priest.
minister, so you can give communion.
Actually, when you say consecrated person, you have vows. Of,
For a generation of viewers who are not familiar with this, of course, that board was headed by Justice Corazon Agrava. They investigated the Aquino Galman double murder case. What did your father testify about?
Actually, I have a very hazy knowledge about what he testified about because I didn't grow with my father.
Yes.
But
and you were just, what, 8 years
8
old
years
at
old
the time
at
of
the
the
time,
assassination?
yes. And I was trying to pore over the records, but I found out that he was able to testify that Galman was not the...
Yeah, wait. He was a security guard
Yes,
of
yes.
China Airlines.
Yes, yes.
On
that's
the
right.
tarmac.
On the tarmac.
Station on the tarmac. Okay.
Actually, he was just transferred to that shift on that particular day. It was not his normal shift, so that was something that was really unusual.
Yes, okay. And he testified to what?
He testified that Galman's body was thrown, I think, somewhere from the van, and then he was riddled with firearms.
Already
and then
dead.
Already
at that
dead.
time. Okay.
So it was not true as the conspiracy theory was saying that it was Galman who killed Ninoy.
And it wasn't
was not
even
him.
true that Galman shot